This is your Elul Motivational Minute, and I hope that you and I can learn something very special because we know we're getting closer and closer to Rosh Hashanah. The new year is about to begin, and the work starts right now. Question is, how big can you dream? Is this a little too much? Well, most people set their goals and begin to achieve and then maybe settle at some point for mediocrity. Who wants mediocrity when you could have so much? But is there a point where maybe you're asking a little too much or you expect too much? Don't forget, Elul, they say one of the understandings, the acronym Elul is Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li. I'm for my beloved's for me. In my corner, right here in my corner, I've got the greatest support ever. I've got the Almighty, and He's on my team, and He's constantly pushing me. But am I pushing too far? Am I trying to go too big? Well, I heard an incredible story about the former leader of the Israeli Air Force. No, not Avigail. She might be the future. But right now, we're talking about Eliezer Shkedi. He's the son of Moshe Shkedi, a Holocaust survivor. You see, 1944, Moshe jumped off one of these transports to survive. Unfortunately, the rest of his family ended up in Auschwitz. After the war, he finds out he's the only surviving member of his family and ends up going to settle in Israel. Now he's living in the modern state. He has a son, ultimately becomes one of the great leaders. As a great leader, as the leader of Israel's Air Force, he doesn't like going to these big ceremonies. He doesn't like attending a lot of meetings. He gets an invitation from the president of Israel at that time, President Peres, who says there's going to be an important dinner that he would like to invite him to join with the president of Hungary. Tells his secretary, just respond that I can't make it. I don't go to meetings. I don't go to these ceremonies. Okay? 2 weeks later, it's about a week before the dinner, the secretary is reviewing the week with Eliezer Shkedi, this leader of the Israeli Air Force. And she says, by the way, next week, don't forget, you've got that dinner. He says, what do you mean that dinner? I told you to cancel the dinner. He wanted to fire her on the spot. She says, well, I didn't cancel because I thought you might want to go. So after going back and forth, he realizes maybe it's an important dinner, he should go. But he says, respond that I will come, but I want to go with my father, with Moshe. Calls up the president says, of course, bring your father. So now they're in the car, they're on their way to Jerusalem. And while they're in the car, as they're getting closer and closer, Eliezer's father says, do you know what's going on right now? He says, of course, yeah, we're going to dinner, the president of Hungary, president of Israel. He says, no, you don't understand what's going on right now. He says, let me explain what's going on. He says, we are going right now to meet the president of the state of Israel. We are going right now to meet the president of the state of Israel. And he repeats it a few times. Then he adds on, we are going to meet with the president of Hungary. So we're going to meet the president of the state of Israel. We're going to meet with the president of Hungary. And then he adds on a third statement. He says, I'm going with my son, who is the head of Israel's Air Force. He says, we are going to meet with the president of Israel. We are going to meet right now with the president of Hungary. We are going right now with my son, who is the head of Israel's Air Force. And then he adds on one more, and the president of Hungary is going to ask for forgiveness. They continue on their way, and he keeps repeating over and over. He says, let me explain something to you. He says, back in 1944, when I jumped off that transport, and I didn't know what was going to happen, if you would have told me to dream big, the biggest dream you ever could have possibly had about what's going to happen in the next 65 years, I could never have ever imagined a state of Israel. I could never have imagined that we are going to be meeting with a president of that state of Israel. And I never would have ever imagined that my son, Eliezer, is one day going to grow up to be the leader, the head, not only of the Israeli Air Force, he says, but of the Jewish Air Force. President of Hungary said sorry. Dream big. Take this opportunity over the next few weeks during Elul. Think about those things that you want to achieve. This is the time to set the goal, not only the goals, not only the bar, but set that bar really high. He's in your corner. You can do it. Inspire yourselves to inspire others. We'll see you next time.